Now the next one is the read part of it. We need to retrieve our users and display it in our page. So we're gonna do again async, call it get users. We get a request and response. Is our function. We need a comma over here in the end. Now try catch as always, and here we do our logic. We're gonna make a variable called result to store the information that you're gonna get from the database. So we can await for that information and user.find. We're calling this find method in the user module. This find method, same as the save, comes from the MongoDB. And here, if you do find, just like that, it's going to return everything. And then you can also chain a few more information you want in here, like for example, sort or limit. Things like this. It's like if you're making a product list, you can limit it to, I don't know, last 5 or something like this. So, but for the user, let's do the sort over created at. Remember, created at is it was created automatically by Mongo. Here, you need to pass this information if you want to find a person by name or whatever. You would pass that information here on the sort. For the find, it takes a few more parameters. You can specify what you want to find in here as well. If you pass an object, like with the email, so if you pass some information like this, an object with some data over here. Right now we want to have this two information, email and password. So if you have something else, let's say a product resource that you would call title, and then you can pass the title over here, you would find only that title. We can check it out, but first let's finish it. I'm gonna leave it without, just the find. We can come back to this one. So now we can do the same, send the response. And now let's say the status, set the status for 200. This is common, good practice to always set the status you want to deal with. Like this, you can actually do some more stuff, like if the status equals to this, you do this, if you need that in your application. And we're sending back the result. Let's do the catch as well, status 400. Let's send error. Now this status we are using, this information, if you search for the HTTP status code, is this website down here, is httpstatus.com. It's quite nice format. So if you check it out, we've been using the OK, which is, for example, in our user, in our create function, we would pass this status 201. So user.send status 201, just like that. So that means that was created, and if you're dealing with payments, was as 2002 and so on. Now we also have like the redirect part of it, which is the 300, and then the 400 are the errors. We are using the bad request. We're also gonna use a 404, which is like if you didn't find the page, for example. And here is also like for the payment and stuff. So yeah, you can search either on this website or search for HTTP status code, and you can get this information. So let's try it out. Now HTTP, and then is the port 88 users. We're getting the users list. For this function to work, we need to hook it up to the router. So let's go to our router and change it. Get users from the users controller, user route. So here we're sending back this user list. We want to send that function we created in here, get users. So same as we did over here with the create user, we're gonna do the same. We delete this user controller dot get users. Now if you save and if you go back here and search, there we go. We have an array, as you can see here is an array, and we have the information. Now let's create another user so I can show you the find method over there. So let's create a post request to our users. And here name, email, and password. There we go. Now we have a new object. If you go to our database and reload here, now I have the other object. So now let's do another request to the users. We get request. Now our array has 2 objects inside. Now let's go back to our function controllers, and here in the find, like let me do this, the thing I mentioned to you before. So if you wanna search only email that contains something, let's say only mine. Then if I save, now if I run the HTTP again, I'll get only mine in here. So the other object, there you go, test. This is useful when you have like a resource, like a product, for example, that you want to get some information, like a category. Like for example, if you have a tag on your product and you want to find all the products with that tag, and then you would use this. Here on the documentation, under queries, and then you can find over here. So as you can see here, you can add things. Is the conditions for the request. So like this, you can sift through your data and find the information, the type of information you want to return. Or if you only send the object back, like an empty object, and as you saw, it works without as well. When you do the request, it's going to return the whole collection. So I'll leave it like this, which is the same. Now, one more thing before we go. Here we are doing using the same route for a get and a post. We can refactor this code to do user route. It's a method that comes from the Express router, and here it takes the path, the endpoint. So you do get user controller dot get user, like that, and then you do. Let's break it down. This down into its lines. Dot post user controller dot create user. It's like this. I'm gonna format to make it nice. As you see, I can delete this one now because these routes are the same for these two are using the same endpoint. You can just use the route and separate them and put in only one. So this looks much nicer and organized. Now let's commit our retrieve function, or read function, to GitHub. So git cm CRUD read get users function. There we go. Now the next will be the update function.